You have certainly met someone like this. A person who carries brilliant ideas, dreams that stretch beyond the horizon, eyes that sparkle, as if he were meant for something greater than ordinary life. He speaks of projects that captivate and inspire. He lives in the realm of possibility, of vision, of what could be, yet never stays grounded long enough in reality to bring anything into existence. Every failure comes with a story, not because he lacks ability, but because it was not the right time, not because he was wrong, but because it was not the right person. The world has not understood him yet. Life has not been ready for him. Perhaps he is someone close to you, a childhood friend, a younger brother, a partner, maybe even your father, a man who, by the passage of time, should have grown, yet seems suspended at a certain psychological point. A man in an adult body, but with a boy still running the inner world emotionally unstable, afraid of commitment, constantly chasing freedom, while quietly avoiding all real responsibility. And the hardest truth to admit is this: a part of you still hopes he will change. One of the great psychologists of the last century described this pattern as Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy. It is not merely a personality trait, but a deep psychological archetype, the man who lives in a permanent state of becoming, as if life is always about to begin, always preparing, but never truly starting. He is magnetic through his youthfulness, his creativity, his spontaneity, but within that charm lies a quiet paradox, because sometimes the very thing that makes him so captivating is the same thing that keeps him from ever truly growing up. But behind that charm, there is always a shadow, a quiet, almost unspoken inability to face the real demands of life. The man shaped by the Puer Aeternus does not simply dream he expects reality to bend to his desires. He waits for others to solve what he refuses to confront. He constructs visions of the perfect woman, the perfect job, the perfect life, a world without friction, without limits, without failure. And when reality fails to match the fantasy, he disappears, not through a clear decision, but through silent withdrawal. He retreats, returning to the familiar cycle of unfinished dreams. On the surface, he believes he is too special to be confined by the ordinary. But beneath that belief lies paralysis, fear of failure, fear of rejection, a fear of growing up. If you have ever tried to pull someone like this out of that cycle, you know the exhaustion. You grow tired of speaking without being heard, of giving without being received, of trying to lift someone who, deep down, does not want to move. And the most painful part, he makes you feel like the problem, as if you are asking for too much, as if you do not understand, as if you are the one threatening his freedom. But the truth must be named: he is not free. He is trapped inside an illusion that looks like freedom, but in reality is a prison of fear and immaturity. And if he does not awaken, he will grow old without ever truly living. This is not an attack. It is a mirror. And if you are still here, it is because something within you recognizes this pattern. Perhaps in someone close. Perhaps in yourself. One of the most influential depth psychologists of the last century described the Puer Aeternus not merely as a personality type, but as a powerful archetype, an invisible force operating in the unconscious of many men. It is often mistaken for charm, spontaneity, or a free spirit. But beneath that lightness lies an almost instinctive resistance to growing up. A psychoanalyst once described the Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy, as someone who never leaves the safety of childhood, where everything is protected and taken care of. He lives on the promise of a brilliant future. Someday, he will begin. But that day never comes. You have seen this type, starting with passion, then quitting when reality gets hard, loving intensely, then withdrawing when responsibility appears. It is not a lack of ability. It is being trapped in the world of ideas. He wants to fly without building wings, to achieve without paying the price, and when life does not deliver, he blames everything except himself. He lives in when, never in today. The problem is not the inner child. The problem is when it takes control of life. The most dangerous part is that he appears free, light, unbound, untouched by any structure or constraint. But that is only the surface. The truth is, he is not free. He is running from pain, from failure, from rejection, and above all, from responsibility for his own life. A depth psychologist once made it clear: without roots, nothing can grow. Without effort, nothing can bloom. And without friction, no real transformation can occur. True freedom is not the absence of limits. It is the maturity to choose what is worth committing to and to stay. Over time, what once looked like light begins to fade. Sensitivity turns into instability. What seemed like freedom slowly reveals itself as a refined form of escape. Then the cracks appear. Forgotten commitments, broken promises, a life that begins to lose its structure. Yet all of it is wrapped in familiar excuses: I'm not ready, I need more time. But beneath it all, there is only one truth: fear. He withdraws from the world, believing he is being authentic, but in reality, he is imprisoned by his own fear. And as one great thinker once reminded us, we do not find light by imagining it, but by daring to face the darkness within. And behind the pure, there is almost always a quiet presence, the mother, real or symbolic, a figure who protects, nurtures, and keeps everything safe, but also keeps him from moving forward. Because the puer is not truly searching for a partner, he is searching for a refuge, someone who understands him without demanding, accepts him without confronting, stays with him without requiring him to grow. And that very comfort becomes a trap. A psychology expert once emphasized that escaping this cycle is never gentle. It requires pain. It requires separation. It requires a break, not physically, but psychologically. Then one day, reality speaks. Unfinished dreams grow heavy. Broken relationships leave marks. And a question arises that cannot be avoided. How long will I keep living as if I have unlimited time? Because the truth is simple. There is no perfect moment. No one is coming to save you. And life will not wait for you to be ready. Maturity is not about killing the child within you. It is about no longer using it as an excuse to escape life. There will always be moments when you want to withdraw, to quit, to wait for inspiration before you begin. But maturity is staying. It is committing when things become difficult. It is continuing even when it no longer feels like the right time. It is being present even when reality no longer matches your ideal. When the eternal child is placed in its proper role, it does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes creativity, to vision, intuition. But this time, it no longer pulls you away from reality. It is guided by a self strong enough to act. A master of psychology once said, "If you do not face your darkness, you will encounter it in every corner of your life." And that is why the truth is simple, yet brutal life does not wait. You must choose to remain in promises that are never fulfilled, or to step into reality where everything demands growth. Because maturity begins the moment you stop waiting for someone to save you, and for the first time, you stand up for yourself. In the end, everything you've heard is not meant to judge you, but to help you see clearly. Clearly a pattern, clearly a trap, and most importantly, clearly yourself. Because all of us, at some point, have wanted to escape, to live in possibilities, instead of facing reality. But the difference comes down to one small choice. Will you keep running, or will you stop and grow? Maturity is not the loss of freedom. It is the reclaiming of control over your own life. So the real question is no longer, are you a Puer Aeternus? But will you stay the same, or start changing today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes, writing it down is the first step out of the cycle.